Welcome to the Stop Dieting podcast, hosted by best-selling, award-winning author and renowned weight loss expert, David Medansky. If you struggle to lose weight or you've lost weight and gained it back, you'll want to listen each week. Each week, you will learn tips for healthy weight loss without going on a diet, without having to follow an exercise program, without counting calories, or having to purchase special meals or products. The Stop Dieting podcast is more than just about healthy and sustainable weight loss. You will also learn how you can have more energy, feel better, get rid of brain fog, and improve your overall health. Stay tuned for another informative and insightful episode. And if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe and share this with your friends.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Stop Dieting. I'm your host, David Medansky. And today we have a very special guest, Dr. LJ Johnson. Dr. Johnson is a women's hormone coach specializing in endometriosis, PCOS, and fibroids. LJ has worked in the women's health and fitness industry for over 20 years while overcoming her own diagnosis of endometriosis. LJ's passion is to empower, motivate, and educate all women that they too can have quality of life despite their symptoms or diagnosis. Welcome, Dr. Johnson.
Thank you so much, David. I'm excited to be here. I'm super excited to delve into this conversation.
Likewise, just out of curiosity, can you explain to the audience what PCOS is?
PCOS, yes. So PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. A lot of you probably listening to this podcast, following David, are battling the weight, right? There's a lot of things that come with PCOS. It is an endocrine system disruptor. It is an endocrine issue. So I definitely want to say that at first, because I know so many times we think that it's just a weight loss thing. We think it's maybe that we're not, properly eating the amount of food, that we're not exercising and all of these things, but it really does attack your endocrine system. It can be cyst on your ovaries. And I will say that not everyone has the same symptoms when it comes to PCOS, but you can have cyst on your ovaries. You can have a period that's MIA, meaning it's here 1 second, it's gone the next. Maybe you haven't had a period in years. Also dealing with a lot of chronic fatigue, inflammation. The biggest thing with PCOS that I like to say is that there's 4 different types of PCOS. And many people that have been diagnosed with PCOS got the diagnosis a long time ago and have no idea what type of PCOS they're dealing with.
So there's different types of PCOS then?
Yes, there is. Let's cover the 4 types really quick. So there's insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, the best way I like to describe it is you can look at a piece of cake and you gain 5 pounds. The cake doesn't even have to touch your lips, honey. Touch the lips or the hips. You look at it, you have a true resistance to sugar. Carbs, sugar does not work well for your body. You're always craving the sugar, yet you get it into your system and it puts you on the highs and lows, the cravings, the mood swings, etc. Then we have inflammatory PCOS, just like it says, inflammatory. You're always inflamed. No matter what you do to decrease your inflammation, you may be having joint pain, you may have fatigue, brain fog, leaky gut, which means leaky brain, lots of things going on with inflammation. Insulin resistance and inflammatory PCOS are the 2 most popular, or I don't want to say popular, but the ones that you see a lot more of. Now there's adrenal PCOS, and that, the best way I like to describe it is an extreme response to stress, right? So what stresses one person out and they keep on keeping on, for you, your body gets into this fight or flight. It taxes those adrenals, your cortisol, everything is out of a balance, and it's really disrupting your endocrine system. Now, the other thing, we got a call here. The other thing I will say is post-pill PCOS. Now, post-pill, just like it says, post-pill is when you come off of birth control and your body pretty much took a break, right? When you're on the pill, your body is like, okay, I don't have to do my job. The pill is there. The pill's like, see you later. We're out of here. And then your body's like, oh, hold it. You want me to do my job? So then it starts overdoing its job. It doesn't know really what to do, how to do it. All the hormones get out of whack. And it takes probably 3 to 6 months, sometimes 9 months to really balance everything. So those are just the short rundown on PCOS and the 4 different types.
So I understand about the pill can cause the PCOS. What are some of the other things that can cause PCOS?
So when you're talking about PCOS, let's talk about the inflammatory and the insulin resistance. There's lots of different things that can be going on in your endocrine system. Sometimes there is the blood sugar, right? The diabetes. Maybe either way you look at it, you may or may not have the diagnosis of diabetes. Sometimes with the PCOS, it is something going on more with your female sex hormones, right? Your period is off, your hormones are out of balance. Maybe you have a cycle, not necessarily the murder scene period, so you don't really get the heavy bleeding. You usually, when you're dealing with PCOS, have the periods that come and go. You don't really know. They're not reliable. You usually have a lot of fertility issues. You're on that fertility journey, but not knowing when you're ovulating. So those can be some of the reasons.
Is it partly hormonal? Is it partly what people eat as far as their diet and food intake?
So it's so interesting. So there was a video that recently came out that was basically saying, it's just you have brought PCOS on yourself. And I'm sure a lot of you people that have PCOS seen that video, and it was basically blaming your body. It is nothing that you have done. It is a hormonal imbalance that really is disrupting that endocrine system. Now, yes, some of the foods that you eat can help, or harm with any diagnosis, with any type of hormonal imbalance. But it is not just something that, you ate too many carbs and you gave yourself PCOS. It is definitely not that simple.
Okay, so it is more hormonal than anything
Absolutely.
else. Okay. And how do you help people with PCOS?
So the biggest thing for me is figuring out what you have as far as the 4 types. Typically what I hear is someone's like, oh, when I was 16 years old, my doctor put me on birth control because I had PCOS. I can't, lose weight. And so that's one of the biggest things is debunking some of those myths of just because you may carry some extra weight doesn't mean that you deserve PCOS, or making that assumption that just because you're overweight, that's why you have PCOS. So that's the biggest thing, is figuring out what the 4 types are, and then figuring out, after we figure out what type you have, for example, if you're dealing with insulin resistance, then it's looking at your nutrition. It's going to be looking at your fitness. Some of the things with nutrition, I'll say right off, is we have to get out of that scarcity mindset. That mindset of, I have PCOS, I'm carrying an extra 20 pounds. I'm going to eat 1,000 calories. I'm going to do juice cleanses and water fasts. I'm going to restrict my calories to heal my body. And so that's with any hormonal imbalance would be my first thing, is restricting food. Restricting your body, adding that extra stressor is not going to help you shed the weight, the inflammation, the pain, whatever. So we have to really look at nutrition and nutrient dense meals, making sure you're getting in the carbs, the fats, and the proteins. Typically, when you're dealing with the insulin resistance and the inflammatory, you're craving the sugars, you're craving the salts and all the sweet cravings. However, you're not bringing in the healthy fats. You're not bringing in the protein. And many of the PCOS sisters that are managing PCOS are trying to lose weight. So they really have to work with the nutrition of getting away from the 1,000 calorie, getting away from the 1,200 calories, getting away from, a pill for every ill. The other thing is balancing the blood sugar. Like, what does that actually look like? Is balancing your blood sugar waking up in the morning and having a big bowl of fruit and then you feeling amazing and then tanking down before you actually get to the office? Or is it bringing in that bowl of fruit and then bringing in some protein? May it be animal protein, plant protein, depending on your preference, and then making sure you're getting those healthy fats. So being able to build those nutrient dense meals is another, I'd say the biggest start. Another thing, talking about the fitness. Once again, just because you may be carrying some extra weight, we have to get over this whole mindset of I'm exercising 2 hours a day. And that's where I like to, I've been there. I don't come from the high horse. I've been there. I've been there dealing with estrogen dominance and endometriosis and needing to lose weight and thinking that I was going to out exercise myself. I was going to exercise my hormones. I'm telling you right now, fitness is a powerful thing. However, chasing the number, chasing the aesthetics, chasing this, Instagram perfect body, it's not the way to go. When you're wanting to work with PCOS, depending on what type, but typically cutting back on a little bit of that cardio, that whole cardio queen mindset of you've got to be dripping sweat 24/7. You've got to be doing these high intense exercises. When you're dealing with PCOS, that kind of works against you. It stresses you out, raises your cortisol. I could go on and on and on. It is not the thing for you to do. So I recommend bringing in some strength training. Now, when I say strength training, I know we think the heavy weights, the 20 pounds, the grunting, all the things at the gym. Honey, strength training could be you leaning back on this wall right now and doing some wall sits. Strength training can be body weight exercises. It doesn't have to be a lot of, strength as far as adding a lot of weight and stress and strain onto your body. But learning how to work out, depending on what type of PCOS you have, and then, working with your cycle, realizing that there are going to be ups and downs in your hormones and your flow, and really, once again, like I like to just say, working with your cycle versus working against it.
Well, you hit on two myths that I like to talk about with weight loss.
Mm-hmm.
Myth number one is calories in, calories out, because calories have different nutritional benefits and not all calories are created equal. And a lot of times when you restrict your calories, as you know, you put your body into starvation mode because you're not given the right fuel or the right nutrition. So now it's going to fight like heck to keep the fat on because that's what it's in survival mode. Mm-hmm. So I always tell people, if you eat for your health, you don't have to worry about the calories. Your weight loss journey will take care of itself. So that's one myth. And the second myth is with the exercise. People believe they have to exercise to lose weight, and it's not really necessary. 90 to 95% of our weight issues are based on what we put into our mouth. So I agree with you there. And what I always like to recommend for people is exercise is very important for overall health and fitness. However, it's not the same for losing weight. And the example I like to use is Rebel Wilson, who lost 77 pounds in a year simply by walking an hour each day. And it doesn't have to be uphill or high intensity, just an hour walk. The other thing is, it doesn't have to be all at one time. Mindy Callis lost weight. And what she did was when she had a 10 or 15 minute break, she would go for a walk instead of going on social media or texting friends. And so if you do a short, 10 or 15 minute walk 4 or 5 times a day, you're walking an hour in total. So it can be broken up. So I agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a mindset shift. I know for me, like I said, spending a lot of time in fitness, teaching the classes, being on big stages, it was all about, hey, if you're not getting results, just take another class. Hey, if you're coming for an hour of weights, stay for an hour of cardio after. And then you have people working out 2 or 3 hours, getting no results, right? Their hormones are all out of whack. And then that's when they're like, well, healthy doesn't work, or weight loss, it's a racket. And it's really not that. It's just you're approaching it with that scarcity mindset. And the nutrition and the fitness are two of the things that I think people struggle a lot with. And it's also realizing that your hormones are a big part of it. You can't, out exercise estrogen dominance. You can't out exercise, you can't exercise your body and trick it into ovulation. I mean, if you're not ovulating, over exercising can work against you. So it's really just, I think sometimes the word hormones, people just kind of, they're like, I don't even want to deal with it because it's so much. They're like estrogen, estradiol, oestrone. They don't know what's going on. And so that's why I always just say, advocating for yourself, plugging into podcasts like myself. I've got the Holistic Endo Expert podcast, all about endo. You've got David. And as you start to build that community, you start to educate yourself, and it's easier to advocate for yourself. It's easier to really get plugged in to kind of find those weak links and people that can kind of put the pieces together for you.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, you can't out exercise a poor diet. It just doesn't happen. When we talk about hormone imbalance, is it important to find a good specialist who deals with hormones?
Well, I think having a specialist, right, like myself, is always important. But let's just talk about some of the basic things that you could be doing today before you get a specialist. I think sometimes we either run straight to a specialist and then they don't give us the correct blueprint or give us all the answers. So we're just like, oh, we'll DIY it. Or we're on the other end where you're searching social media. You and Dr. Google and Pinterest have came up with the plan, right, with not quite all the guidance that you need. So I think there's like a little happy medium. But for someone that is wanting to start today, balancing your blood sugar is going to help balance your hormones. If you're living on Starbucks, nothing against Starbucks, but if you're on caffeine and coffee and energy drinks and sugar 24/7 just to keep you going, your blood sugar is going up, down, up, and down. Probably, I'm just going to be honest, your weight is probably going up and down, up and down, up and down. So what can you do to naturally balance your blood sugar? Now, for some of you, that may be, bringing in some extra carbs. Maybe it's bringing in a certain type of carb. Maybe it's looking at your blood type because maybe you're eating something that's not working for your body. But balancing your blood sugar would be the biggest thing. The first thing I would say, no matter, what your intake forms would say, is Carbs, fats, and proteins, making sure you have a balance. Also, when you're looking at balancing that blood sugar, realize that if you are dealing with hormonal issues, PCOS, fibroids, maybe you're like, I'm in perimenopause, the weight's just jumping on my body. If that's the case, then you really want to make sure that you're not doing a bunch of like water fast, juice cleanse, intermittent fasting, OMAD, because I know those things are getting very fat. You want to just lose the weight very quickly. But if your body at the cellular level is in fight or flight and you're fighting inflammation, you're fighting disease, you have these things going on, doing those fast and doing those restrictive diets really stresses out your body, like you said, and puts you in starvation mode, and it's really going to work against your healing journey. So that would be the biggest thing, like balancing that blood sugar, and not always looking for the quick fix. I think we have this Amazon, we want to pay an extra $2.99 and get it in a couple of days. We want to get it right now. And when you're healing your body naturally, you can't Amazon your health. You have to really slow down and find a plan that works for you. And it's so individualized. I think so many times I love when we share a journey of what worked for us, but people have to realize that there was probably a lot that went on behind the scenes for us to get that plan. So it's really finding the plan that will work for you.
Exactly. And that's why I tell people with weight loss, not one size fits all, because we're all unique and different. I also tell people, would you like to weigh 24 to 48 pounds lighter by this time next year? And most people who need to lose weight will say, yes, of course. Mm-hmm. So I ask them, can you lose 2, 3, 4 pounds per month? Not a week, per month on average, for 12 months. And sometimes you'll lose some weight, sometimes you won't lose any. But on average, 2 to 4 pounds a month. At the end of the year, you're 24 to 48 pounds lighter. The problem I find today is with the national brands who advertise lose, 15, 20, 30 pounds your first month guaranteed. Well, maybe you'll lose that weight the first month. However, it's not healthy. It's not sustainable.
Right.
And that's the important thing is, finding a lifestyle. Because
sustainable.
Exactly.
That was the biggest one.
As you know, diets are temporary, extreme, hard to stick with, and a lot of them are potentially dangerous to our health.
Yeah, the sustainability part is huge. And I know that, and you have to think about it too, right? You didn't gain that 40 pounds in 15 days, so trying to lose 40 pounds in 15 days really just doesn't set you up for success. And then you're always hopping from diet to diet, gimmick to gimmick. And I have to be honest, for many of you that are over exercising and under eating, you're doing more damage, under the hood than you realize. And then I would say, as an overall arch, because you're, if you're listening to this, you're trying to lose weight, you're doing all the things. Here's the thing. If you really get to the root of the problem, may that be a blood sugar issue, a gut issue, a hormone issue. If you stop chasing the symptoms, instead of just trying to have a supplement or, a diet or a gimmick to help you lose the belly fat, what can I tone my thighs? People are always what can I do to get the good arms? How can I decrease my belly fat? Here's the thing. If you would just get to the root of the issue, may it be your hormones, whatever's going on, if you get rid of that, the weight loss will come, the decreased inflammation will come. But what we do is we chase the symptoms rather than looking at that metabolic chaos to see exactly what's going on underneath. We just want the clear skin. We want the sexy, we want the energy. We want all the fun, sexy stuff. But it's like, if we truly want that in weight loss and weight health, then we need to make lifestyle changes based upon, getting to that root of the problem. And that takes a little bit of work. It's not going to be overnight.
Exactly. And you mentioned fad diets. I refer to fad as fat and desperate.
It happens to the best of us, right? And I will say it for me. I was there. I had the thyroid issue. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I just needed to work out more or lift more weights or teach more classes. And it was like, it was not healing my body. I had a hormonal imbalance. I had gut issues. I had leaky gut. So there wasn't an amount, of cardio and Zumba classes that was going to heal my leaky gut. I had to make some nutrition changes, bring in some supplements, and really get, specialized treatment for what was going on with my body.
Yeah. And the other thing is a lot of people are being misled by the food industry and the weight loss industry. As you mentioned, it's a racket. And the reason I call it a racket is when I had my own weight loss journey 6 years ago, the weight loss industry was $61 billion a year. Today, it's $76 billion a year. And if those diets and weight loss programs work, why is it that 4 to 5 people, an average person will start 4 or 5 diets each year? And what I learned in doing research is the average person will attempt 126 different diets during their lifetime.
I could not imagine.
And so that's why I call it, the philosophy is, diet until you die, basically.
Mhm.
And that's not necessary because, as you mentioned, it's lifestyle. And a lot of people also get confused about carbohydrates.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, carbohydrates get a bad rap because there's a difference between a simple carbohydrate and a complex
Mhm.
carbohydrate. And our
Right.
bodies do need complex carbohydrates. And the other thing I learned in doing research is 90 to 95% of the US population is deficient in fiber each day.
And they don't have the fiber, but they'll sprinkle in a little bit of fiber, or they'll get their, fiber one supplement, which is full of like sugar and then, a bunch of psyllium husk and whatever random stuff they throw in there. So it
Well,
really is about just advocating for yourself and getting the guidance, like plugging in. And like you said, hopping from diet to diet, that in itself is stressful. And if your body is stressed out and you're in fight or flight, I hate to tell you, you're not going to drop an ounce, or you'll lose 5 pounds, you'll gain 10, you'll get skinny for Christmas and then you'll blow up because you left all those habits. So it's really about making those small changes, those granular things that are going to turn your lifestyle around. Because if you look at anyone that's ever lost a lot amount of weight, quickly, unless they made a true lifestyle change, 1, 2, 3, 10 years later, think of some of those more popular shows. I work behind the scenes on them, and it's like, notice we've not did a 10-year reunion because some of the things we were doing were so drastic, right? It wasn't really healthy. It didn't put them in the driver's seat of their health. And 10 years later, they're still managing, the emotional eating that they were doing, the physical pain, all of these things. You have to address everything holistically. And I think for anyone that's on a weight loss journey, like, yes, you may need to lose weight, maybe it's causing back pain, this, that, and the other, but you really have to get to the root of the problem. And that's not always going to be something that you can throw a nutrition Band-Aid on, or a diet Band-Aid on, or a fitness Band-Aid. I mean, there's also that mental health portion where you have to kind of see what's going on. Are you feeding certain emotions? Are you hanging on to trauma? Those are the things that people that aren't sexy, nobody wants to talk about that. But that is, when you're curing unforgiveness and trauma and all of those things, that is actual weight that will cause disease in your body.
oh, absolutely. And that's what I advocate also, is getting to the underlying issues.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you having these bad habits? Most of us know what to do to eat healthier and lose weight. We just don't do it. And that's the question. And then the other question is, why is it so difficult to lose the weight? And more importantly, keep it off? Because 90% of people who lose weight on a diet gain it all back within a year. Some gain even more. And a good example is The Biggest Loser. 66% of their contestants regained all their weight. Some gained more, and a good portion of them gained a lot of their weight back. Again, it's not realistic to be exercising 2, 3, 4 hours a day in the gym
Mm-hmm.
when you have family obligations or work responsibilities. So as you mentioned, it's all about your lifestyle and creating healthy eating habits. And not everybody likes the same food. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why, like you said, you have to find out what's going to work for your body.
Right. And I think when you focus on that and not just trend hop, I mean, let's be honest, beginning of the year, everyone's like, oh, I'm going to lose 15 pounds. I'm going to lose 20 pounds. And it's like, is that really what we need to set the goal to be? Or do we need to set the goal to decrease inflammation, to have better relationships with our family, to have a better connection with food, to actually nutrify our body versus, chasing a number, chasing the aesthetics. I think it just, like you said, it's not a lifestyle change, and it'll always have you chasing the next gimmick that comes along.
And as you said, with the holidays fast approaching, people make their resolutions to lose weight and get fit. Again, it seems like it's an annual event. And the problem with what I've experienced with my clients is, as you mentioned, they set a goal to lose 15, 20 pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and they're doing everything right for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and the scale's not moving. And they're getting frustrated. They're going to the gym, they're exercising, they're eating healthier. And I had that happen with one client. So I finally asked him, I said, are you exercising more? And he says, yeah, I've been, riding my bicycle. I've been walking 5 miles a day. I said, how do your clothes fit? He goes, well, they're loose. In fact, people are asking me if I'm losing weight. However, the scale's not moving. I said, don't go by the scale. Go by how you feel, how your clothes fit. Your clothes will tell you. You'll have more energy. You feel better. He goes, yeah. I said, the scale will start moving eventually. You're replacing the fat with muscle. And as you and I both know, muscle and fat weigh the same. 5 pounds is 5 pounds. The difference being muscle takes up less room. It's denser than what fat is. So people get discouraged, and that's when they stop because they're not getting, as you mentioned, the instantaneous results. And so I agree with you that they need to do it consistently and for a continued period of time.
Yeah, that consistency and then the accountability, having that support network, having the podcasts that you listen to, the Facebook groups, the Instagram, like whatever that's going to really be pushing you towards your goal and having that supportive community. But sometimes you need that accountability. Sometimes you need to have that coaching call every 2 weeks or that group that you get in where you're like, hey, someone holding you accountable. Hey, LJ, did you get your workouts in? Or how's your nutrition? I mean, you have to find what works for you. I think, like you said, it's just that mindset of the new year, new me. Here's the thing. If you don't try something different, and especially for females, if you don't address those underlying hormonal issues, you're always going to be signing up for the next 90-day challenge, 21-day fix and all of that. And it's like, can you really fix everything going on in your body in 21 days? I mean, yes, you can make some new habits and things like that, but for sustainable changes, you have to have that lifestyle change.
Yeah, and I usually advocate at least 6 months. Mm-hmm. Because research has shown that it takes 66 days on average. So that may be a little bit more, a little bit less to create a new habit, not the 21 days, not the 30 days that people believe. Again, it's another myth out there. Mm-hmm. So I agree with you on that. Have there been tell us a little bit about your story. How did everything come about with you? How did you find out about your symptoms?
So my issues really, I'm 43 years old. It makes me sound like when I was a wee child. So I started my period when I was 12. I started having a lot of issues with my body around my menstrual cycle at the age of 14. It took me 16 years to get the diagnosis of endometriosis. I had the pelvic pain, the murder scene periods. If you're a female that's had those horrible periods, you know what it's like, the murder scene periods. I was coughing up blood during my cycle, chronic fatigue, always bloated, crazy joint pain, just all of these like crazy things happening to my body. And so it was very interesting. I loved what I did. I loved my career, but it got to where I thought my period was the problem. And so that's one of the biggest misconceptions with endometriosis is people feel like it's a period problem. Oh, you're a strong woman, push past the pain. And so it was for me realizing that endometriosis is chronic inflammation throughout my entire body. It's not a reproductive issue. It's not a period issue. And it also has autoimmune-like factors. And so for me, it was debilitating to my health. It'd be 1 second, I'd be on stage, teaching a weightlifting class to 10,000 people, shooting videos and on top of the world. The next day, my body would, crash out. I had no energy, chronic fatigue, my vision would change. I was super bloated. I was having all these GI issues and I couldn't really either I was 100% or I was crawling to the bathroom. There was no happy medium. And so that's what I spend a lot of time doing right now is educating women that, just because you have a uterus, just because you have a cycle doesn't mean that you have to be in pain all the time. But for many of us, we've normalized, the period pain, the chronic pelvic pain, or we're masking it with birth control because we think it's a period issue. And so it was for me just realizing what I was doing, the over exercising, the under eating, the not eating any fats because I didn't want to be fat, realizing that was not balancing my hormones. It was like that slap in the face where I was like, okay, that pivoted my whole life, getting the diagnosis, but my practice, because what I was doing was no longer working for me. The restrictive diets was not working. I was gaining weight. I was bloated. People were like, oh, when's your baby due? And you're like, oh, actually not even pregnant. This is just swelling and bloating from endometriosis lesions. It was trying to explain to people, it was affecting my work. It was affecting my practice. I was having to leave my business for months at a time. And as an entrepreneur, when you're first starting, that was a big deal. You're the main talent in your business. And if you can't even show up and run your business. So for me, I had to really take a lot of time to heal once I got the diagnosis. And like you said, I wanted that Amazon Your Health. I wanted the quick fix. And so I tell people I tried all the pharmaceuticals. And so that it's not that I speak out against them because I'm just like, don't do it. It's like, I tried them. Sometimes they were helpful, but for me, that's not what put my endometriosis into remission. It was really, learning my body, creating a plan. And those are a lot of the things I do right now. But it took me a long time to find the diagnosis. And it was very disheartening, also to get the diagnosis and realize there was no cure. And so, I mean, to be honest, I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was like, I got to put myself back in the driver's seat. Like, I can't just trust my OB and my doctor to come up with all the things for me to regain my quality of life, because I was a single parent, not able to go to work half the time, when I was working for other people, couldn't work my own business, couldn't even raise my own children. Times my neighbors were getting my kids dressed for school because my body was so unreliable. So that was a lot of pain, a lot of strain, 16 years of, several other diagnoses, a lot of misdiagnoses. And so for many like myself, especially women of color, endometriosis is almost like a diagnosis of exclusion, because they've pretty much ran every test. They've, given you every diagnosis and figured out that's not the answer. But I think the biggest thing with that is realizing that it's not a reproductive issue. It's not a period issue, but it does affect your hormones and your cycle.
And have you found that improving your diet has helped the situation?
Absolutely. Diet is huge. I was just talking to a new patient about nutrition, and she's like, I worked with nutritionists, and there's nothing wrong with just tackling your nutrition. But when you're dealing with endometriosis, you have to have a full holistic, a full prong approach. It's going to be nutrition. It's going to be fitness. It's going to be managing, your gut health, getting rid of toxins, stressors, infections. All of it is so important. Now, the nutrition for me definitely was the beginning of my healing journey. And I have to be honest, I once again made the nutrition changes for aesthetics, right? I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to do this. But what I found is when I really started to decrease the inflammation in my body, find the anti-inflammatory diet that works for me, not the cookie cutter endo diet, because there is no endo diet that works for everyone. It really gave me back my quality of life. I wasn't as inflamed. I wasn't in a lot of pain. For me also, one of the nutrition things I always say is that I had to really look at the nightshades, some of the foods that I was eating. Yes, they're healthy fruits and vegetables, but for my body, with the gut health that I had that was so broken and with leaky gut, some of the everyday foods like bell peppers and eggplant and white potatoes and things like that, like those weren't working for my body. They were actually inflaming my body. So it was nice to go back, and redo my nutrition courses with functional medicine and integrative medicine and really figure out like what worked for my body, because nutrition I knew was important. I just didn't realize how important, because when dealing with endometriosis, typically you've got a lot of, food sensitivities and food allergies. So you begin to do a lot of processed shakes, right? You're doing a protein bar here, a shake here, because always in the back of your mind, you're like, I got to lose 10 pounds. I got to lose 15 pounds. You're always thinking about it. So you start making these scarcity food choices. So for me, I had to like revamp my whole thing. I remember traveling the world telling people, eat 6 meals a day to rev up your metabolism, but it's like, was chicken breast and broccoli working for me? Eventually it wasn't even working for me. So I was like, I think we got to go back to the drawing board here. Like, I'm having horrible pain here, pelvic pain, cramping outside of my cycle. I'm not able to go to work. I'm passing out. I was just like, okay, this chicken and broccoli, maybe not so much. Maybe we need to come up with something else. And so, yeah, nutrition is huge. I love that I was able to make the changes. Was it easy? No. Did it happen overnight? No. Can I bring in some processed foods every once in a while now and not be doubled over in endo pain? Absolutely. But I had to do a lot of healing on my gut. But like I said, I've been there to where when you have endo, you feel like you can't eat anything and you become very restrictive. And that restriction in itself, I wish there was like a special word for that eating disorder. That restriction in itself, when you have a body that's in pain, you start restricting so much, it actually works against your healing. So that was a big, big lesson I had to learn.
Yeah. Another myth, is people believe orange juice is healthy when it's one of the most unhealthy foods out there, because as I tell people, it takes 48 medium-sized oranges to create 1 glass of orange juice. So would you eat 4 to 8 oranges at one sitting? Oh, no. But that's how much sugar you're putting into your body, because it's been processed and it removes all the fiber. Even if they add some of the pulp back, it's still not the same. So I usually tell people, just eat the orange.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But it's finding what works for your body, right? Because for one person, the orange juice could be amazing. And then, if you're someone, that has endo and you've got a lot of bloating and gas and you're like, I don't know what I can and can't eat. And then you dump in that sugar, or like you said, someone that's dealing with PCOS and you knock back that 16 ounces of orange juice and you're like, well, I should feel great. It just spikes your blood sugar. And then, 30 minutes later, you're in a sugar coma. You can't keep your eyes open and you're like, what's going on? I'm eating healthy. I had my organic orange juice. Well, it's once again has to be like specialized for your body. That's where cookie cutter nutrition and diets They just don't work. But we've all tried them. We've all been there.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
That's what I tell people,
Learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. Got my wake up call in July of 2016 at age 61 when my doctor told me, based on my lab results and being fat, I had a 95% chance for a fatal heart attack. And he gave me two options: lose weight or find a new doctor. And he strongly encouraged me to find a new doctor because he'd been after me for 8 years to lose the weight. And I had tried every diet imaginable. Nothing worked. And if I did lose the weight, I wasn't able to keep it off. And as I said, sometimes I gained more weight back than what I initially lost. So it was when I learned to change my eating habits and lifestyle, that's when the weight came off and has stayed off. So
lifestyle changes. I hate to say it like a broken record, but it's really the best way to go.
Really and then, this June, 6 years later, at age 67, I hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro. So that was exciting.
Amazing. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. So that's what I want to tell people. It's never too late. You can always correct, and the body's amazing. It will heal itself if you give it the right nutrition and the right, time to rest. And again, people confuse intermittent fasting with, giving the body time to digest the food and rest in between. So there's a lot of inaccurate information, a lot of misleading information, a lot of myths out there. And it's
a lot of miseducation. Floating around. That's why I say I love Dr. Google, but sometimes you just need to make sure you're, don't just try to DIY your own healing protocol. And especially if you've been doing it on your own forever. Women are like, I always, I can't lose weight. I keep having babies, or I can't have babies. What's going on? I'm telling you, reach out to me if you've been doing it on your own and you're not getting any results. If you've tried every diet, every gimmick, every restrictive, this, that, and the other, you're on Google right now looking for the next juice cleanse to change your world. I'm telling you, especially for my females, you have to look at your hormones, and looking at your hormones is not going to be just bringing on a birth control or, bringing in some progesterone cream, or someone on Instagram said, if you have belly fat, you're estrogen dominant, bring in DIM. I'm telling you right now, if it was that simple, we would airdrop it to everyone. It is definitely more specialized. So if you truly want to get in the driver's seat, you got to get a professional and a new set of eyes on the situation. And
how can people reach out and contact you?
Absolutely. Well, Instagram's one of my favorite places for lots of free content. We'll have the links. It's LJS_powerhouse. You can also click the link there. Go to my store. I've got lots of resources for people dealing with endometriosis, PCOS, and fibroids. We'll also give you the work with me link if you're like, maybe I want to just chat with LJ and see what's going on. We have a free discovery call, and you can hop on and we can see how we can support you.
And that'll all be provided in the show notes underneath the recording.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, David. I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, thanks so much, LJ. This has been fascinating. Time just flew by, and it's the end of the episode, but I really appreciate you being a guest and all the wonderful information you shared with us, and sharing your story and your experience, and being there to help other women with these issues. Because
thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It seems that the medical community is misdiagnosing a lot of women and causing a lot of misery that doesn't need to happen that way.
Right. We have to advocate for ourselves and grab that community. So if you hear nothing else from this whole conversation, advocate for yourself. If you don't feel like you're getting the proper care, if you don't feel okay, even though your blood tests are okay, don't take no for an answer. Keep searching for the answers.
And reach out to LJ too.
I'm here. I'm ready for you.
Thank you so much, LJ. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Stop Dieting podcast. Remember to like and subscribe so you won't miss a single episode to get more healthy eating and lifestyle tips. Motivate and inspire others to be healthy by sharing with your friends.